The elected president of Uganda, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi, His Excellency, atutwongera obajjukiza n'okubategeeza nti asazeeko abaana b'omukono mu style. His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi gwe tuli naye mu bitundu eby'omukono era alibadde essanyu jjereere nga bannamukono baaneeza pulezidenti waabwe eyalondebwa pulezidenti w'eggwanga, essuubi ly'Abannayuganda, omukulembeze w'abantu, essuubi ly'Abannakampala, essanyu ly'abantu. President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi gwe tuli naye emukono. Bannamukono mwebale nnyo kwaneeza President, mwebale nnyo kumulaga mukwano, mwebale nnyo kumulaga kwagala. Banange tusiimye nnyo, tusiimidde ddala. His Excellency the elected President of Uganda, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi gwe tuli naye mu bitundu eby'omukono era nga bwe kimu kiri very fine. Baganda bange, mikwano gyange, twongera obajjukiza n'obategeeza nti pulezidenti w'abantu, pulezidenti w'eggwanga, pulezidenti eyalondebwa, omukulembeze w'abantu, omukulembeze w'Abannayuganda, essuubi ly'Abannayuganda, omusanyusa w'abangi era omwagazi w'abangi, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi tuli naye emukono era mukono gwe twogera kati nnyinza obagamba nti mukono ewuuma eyogera kimu. His Excellency omununuzi w'eggwanga atuuse, ambuleera wa ambuleera. Banange nako temukeerabira akabonero kaffe nti ambuleera, buli wolaba ambuleera ng'otiikinga muganda wange, mukwano gwange, abo bajja kutuwulira. Ffe tubalimu nga ntunuka, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu abalimu nga ntunuka, pulezidenti w'eggwanga eyalondebwa, Bannayuganda ab'enjawulo naye nga tweyanzizza nnyo bannamukono. Mwebale kwagala pulezidenti, mwebale kumulaga mukwano, mwebale kumubeererawo, mwebale kumwaniriza. Ffe tuli basiimu nnyo kubanga kino abamu tebakisuubira, kino abamu tebalowooza nti tulikituukako era kino abamu tebalowooza nti tulikikola, naye tulina essanyu nti ate tukikoze, ate mu mbeera ey'amaanyi, mu mbeera ey'essanyu. Bannayuganda gye beeyagaliramu, Bannayuganda gye bawuliriramu ekisa n'essanyu. Twongera obajjukiza n'obategeeza nti President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi, His Excellency elected President of Uganda, ng'ali wamu ne Bannayuganda, amaze okuba nga asalako ebitundu eby'emukono era tweyanziza nnyo, tweyanzeege.
Like I said, I was born in Kozi Hospital, but that was during the wartime. So we never lived in one place for more than 6 months.
Right.
So we were in Kozi, then we went to Chotera, and then after the end of the war, we came back to Kamocha to live with my mother, because even after the war ended, my father was still a political prisoner, and he stayed in prison up to 1988 when he was released. So late 88 when he was released, he came for us from Kamocha in 89 to reunite all of us back in Gomba. I lived in Gomba for a few years, but because for the time when my father was away, my mother had established herself in Kamocha, where her father was born, because my grandfather, my mother's father, is a renowned gentleman called Mordecai Chiinji. So we came back to Kamocha to live with our mother. Was that
your choice at that point? Are you an adult making that choice for yourself, or daddy saying it's okay?
I never made any choices in my life. I always went by the parents.
Right.
Yeah. I was a troublesome child.
That's honest.
You know, yeah, very troublesome. I believe that I wouldn't have turned out the way I am if it was not my mother. My mother beat the hell out of me. I have so many scars from my mother.
She had to.
Yeah. I had elder brothers, the likes of Eddie Awe, Nyanzi.
In the line of the 10 from your mother, your number what?
Chairman Nyanzi comes first, then Eddie Awe comes second, then the other sister called Namulene, she's third, then we have a brother who's a pastor called Pastor Sentamo, he's fourth, then my brother Julius, fifth. And then I come number 6.
Number 6.
Then I'm followed by Banjo Man, Manager John, Mickey Wine, and Dax Vibes is the last one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a bad number, but
it's not a hard number.
Also,
but we also have a special sister.
Yes, the only girl in the boys. I mean, I understand. Mom, you said mom was in medicine.
Mom was a midwife.
A midwife.
Yeah.
If in hindsight, now when you look back at the years, how did she do it? Raising all those boys.
Man, I don't know, because she would work either the night shift in Mulago and day shift she was running a clinic in Kamocha. And when she worked daytime in Mulago, she would
be on the clinic at night.
But one thing that I remember is that we would feed on hospital food. Since my mother was working at Mulago, she would have a tiffin. Tiffin Ojimaji?
Yes, container.
So we would go with an empty tiffin as if we are taking food for some Mulwade. But then she would put food for us.
To feed how many?
To feed us. We needed food. So we would, whatever the medics would eat, we would carry home as well and eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it was good food, don't say wow. It was good food.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad at all.
Your family, and by family I mean because we grew up hearing stories of when your mom passed, that most of the either little partitions or homes or houses there were owned.
Yes.
By, I think when they say your family, they mean your mother.
Yes.
Life tells me that if you own anything, then poverty isn't part of your life.
Yeah.
So how did the dynamics work? There was some money, but not enough money.
Initially, there wasn't any money, but Flavia, I was born to the most enterprising woman I've ever seen. Our mother, I think I was much younger when she bought that plot in Kamocha, where I now doing studio and Firebase sits.
Right.
But I grew up.
What was it before? It was just a home?
No, there was a garage there.
Okay.
There was a garage and there was a small plot of land. But after my mother bought it, my elder brothers, Ediawe and Nyanzi, helped her put up a shack.
Okay.
You know, our house was a mud house initially with a tin roof, and it was built by my elder brothers, Nyanzi and Ediawe, together with my mother. So we went transforming that over the years. Actually, in the house, on our house in Kamocha, there is still a part that we just decided to preserve. That part is tin roofed and it is mud and water. And we maintained it like
to remind
that,
you,
to remind us of where we come from.
Wow. So you literally saw her do from scratch to where you ended up.
Yes.
That teaches you something, doesn't it?
A lot. It taught us a lot, continues to teach us.
But then, now when I think about the dynamics of being in a marriage and having children, it's assumed that you learn hard work from a father. Assumed. But you were having these lessons of being a go-getter, of trying and doing and never giving up from a woman.
Yeah. Flavia, not that our father is not hardworking.
Yes.
He was very hardworking. In fact, even very daring. That's what landed him in trouble.
Yeah.
But for me, the example that I saw, I'm told about my father's greatness by my elder siblings.
But it wasn't because of proximity.
Exactly. But for me, what I saw, everything that I saw on my mother. Yeah.
I wonder what your first song choice will be.
One Love from Bob Marley.
I wouldn't be surprised that you would have a Bob Marley song.
Why? It was also Mama's Child, right?
So really, the influences are, I'm sure, quite similar till the end.
But I believe in love. I believe love is a solution to most of the problems in the world.
It is. But it's also the hardest thing to have.
Desert Island Discs with Flavia on Capital FM. Fresh hits for Uganda.
It's Desert Island Discs, and my guest today is Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, and I'm not sure what title you prefer to go by these days, since you have very many.
My favorite title is Bro.
Bro.
Yeah.
See? So we were at your first story where mom has influenced you, you've grown up. Let's talk about school.
Yeah.
What was the school times like?
Do we have enough time on this show to talk about?
Let me guess.
First I started my first school at a school called St. Maria Goretti Kindergarten and Nursery School. It was in Kamocha, in Acholi Quarter, now Chifumbira. It's that school where I studied with the renowned TikTok sensation Asia, who we lost.
So that's how
recently. Yeah. It was owned by a lady. She's still there. She's called Mchala Chimboa. Now the school moved to Kamocha Malimira zone. I was there for my nursery and then for my P1. I went to City Primary School, now Area Primary School. For my P2, I went to Kamocha Islamic Primary School. For my P3...
Come on now.
Yeah, for my P3...
P1 in one school, P2.
Yeah. And for my P3, that's when my father came for us.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, and
to go back to Gomba.
So my P3, I went to Kasaka Primary School. In fact, when we reached Gomba, I first went to Kanoni Meya Primary School for just a term. And then they elevated me to a school that had a better standard. That's Kasaka Primary School. P3 still. For my P4, I went to Kanoni Church School. That was a Catholic school. And that's where I did my P5 as well. So that's the longest period.
2 years.
Yeah, in the primary school. For my P6, I went to St. Aloysius Bukalaji Primary School. And I was in P6 when I sat for my P7.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a long story.
Okay. I'm like, should we ask?
Yeah. So
why the movement? Each class?
The stability was not there as yet. In Uganda, there are children that they call Omwana Okumugugu. I was a sickly child that I needed to be with my mother. So whenever my mother had a transfer, she would carry me. But that was not the only reason.
Okay.
Most times, by the end of the year, I had performed exceptionally good, but I did not have school fees for the next year. So it is only my report that would take me to the next place, only to leave Gasasude fees. So when I went to senior one, for my senior one, I went to St. Maria Goretti Secondary School in Katende. That was senior one, first term. Senior one, second term, I went to Brain Trust Academy. And yes, that's the longest secondary school that I was in. That's the secondary school I spent the longest time, because I was there for senior 1, senior 2, and senior 3. For senior 4, I went to Kitante Hill School, and that's where I met everybody that I made. Turman, Master Paroti, Jerry Shaka the late, Rude Boy Devo, Baby Cole.
It was such a transitional school for all of us.
Yeah, that's when I started actually singing. I did my senior 4 in Kitante in 96, and I went for my senior 5. I went to Ruriri Secondary School. Senior 6, I went to Kololo Secondary School. That's where I did my senior 6 from. I went to Makerere University. First did social sciences, but I opted out of it and did MDD.
The years that you're saying, when did Robert Chagulanyi start to say?
I was still talking about school. We were there.
Olimba.
Nchagatambula sinamara.
Tugende. Social sciences, you opted out with MDD.
I went opted for MDD because there
you had already actually established yourself in music at that point.
Yes. No, I was not established as well. It was at the Department of Music, Dance and Drama that I...
Kagoma was not when you were at university?
I was at university doing MDD.
Right.
Yeah. So after that MDD, of course, I went out to the world and spent some more than 15 years in the field. It was in 2016 that I went back to school, and I went to law school. I went to East Africa International University, but I was there just for a year, and I changed university to Cavendish because by then the law degree was not accredited.
The other side.
Yeah. Just completed this year my law degree, but still I also went to do a master's in human rights at the University of London. So that's what I'm doing. In between there, I also went to Harvard, for a brief course. So
the school journey is not short.
Yeah, it's not short. It continues. But the biggest school is the street.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's where you learn everything you're using. When did you start to say, Kaneye Ngomvubuka? To contribute to life? I did
not say that. I was pushed to that.
Okay, life made you.
When we were in P2.
P2 you're quite young.
With my elder brother Julius, because he was more farmer.
Right.
He would carry a basket. Would carry my mother's either sumbusa or kabalagala or fried cassava. So during break time,
At school?
Yeah.
At the school you were going to?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
During break time, my elder brother would run business and I would run with him. I would later learn because that was the family business. When you're home, mutambuza kabalagala. My mother was doing various kinds of businesses. Lunaku Wakatale, Akos Endibota is old clothes or old shoes.
A bale of clothes. Yeah.
Actually, as time went on, my mother also ventured in video showing Ebibanda. Yeah. So we would be running those, our mother's small business.
So she would start the idea and the business, and then because, I mean, you're many boys around, you'd get a kabalagala, Chibanda.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, that helped us a great deal. And of course, as our elder brothers also, you know, took us under their wings, particularly Chairman Nyanzi, who was owning hardware and I was running it.
Right.
So those skills helped us a great deal growing up.
But did you end up enjoying the journey along the way? Because Mukola Kasente, what's the
honestly, I didn't enjoy it in the beginning.
Okay.
But I just had to accept it. It was nice to earn, it was nice to work, but I was not doing what I was enjoying. I only enjoyed business when I got into the music business because that was fun, that was passion, you know. So that's when
it wasn't just survival.
No, it wasn't just survival. It was enjoying
what you were doing.
Felt it.
Your brothers, I think your two elder brothers, just one had got into music, some sort of music, because that's when the studio ended up being built.
Yeah.
Tell us that journey, because there's an assumption that your brother just set up a studio and you said, okay, I'll just make music. Actually,
no. You know, even when I was much, much younger, I grew up to a musical family. When my father picked me from Kamocha, together with my brother Julius, to take us and reunite us with a bigger family. When sanity had been established, you know, I found so many of my siblings that I also didn't even know because I'm coming from this mother and there were many mothers. So in that big house in Gomba, there was a family choir of my elders. Oh my God, I have my sisters that sing. So it was so beautiful when I went to that family. Eddie Awe was just one of the many singers.
Or the one who got more pronounced.
Yes.
Well, I take it for granted, because I'm an only child, I've never understood how people are many in one home and enjoy that. How was that? I mean, I guess you guys are 10, but then now you're reunited and you're more than 10.
Yeah, we were in a house, maybe about 28 children. Thereabout. It was beautiful. Of course, there was a fight every day. Of course, at the end of every day, our father had his sticks in the corner. So he had to come. He was a strict disciplinarian.
Right.
So he had to come and punish the offenders of the day and also reward the good children.
There was offenders of the day.
Of course. Every evening, 7 p.m. or so, there was a report. So and so.
And I wonder who was doing the report.
So and so stole mango. So and so was reported. So many were giving reports, including myself.
You were giving reports, or you were on the offender? You were number one on the offenders list.
I was one of the offenders, but because I was young, it was usually hard to be beaten. But as I grew up, I lost that immunity. Anyway, so in that family, there was a choir, and that family choir would usually be hired to sing on funerals, to sing on parties, to sing on weddings.
And these are your siblings?
Yes, these are my siblings. But these used to sing only Christian hymns.
Yes.
So while the talent was there, for me when I was growing up, it was a different perception altogether. It was Michael Jackson, it was Shabba Ranks, it was Buju Banton. So for me, I got what many people would call spoiled.
Because your choices were far from church.
Exactly. And it turned out to be a complete different story from all my
Why do you think so? Do you think it was the influence of the other youths that you were with in Kamocha? Where do you think that streak came from? Because if I'm to be honest, remember that generation where we grew up, I mean, even Bebe Cool and everybody who was in that area, everyone had dreadlocks. Well, the guys, everybody had dreadlocks. Everybody looked a certain way, dressed a certain way. What looked to the world as Abana Bayaye, in that community was normal.
Yeah.
Everybody wore their trousers down. Everybody was in vests. Or you could have vests. Everybody was in vests.
Everybody was in a vest.
Everybody
was walking in a certain way as if they are on springs. You know,
it was normal in that community.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what influenced you? Because you were around people who were doing certain things?
Yes, the influence largely came from the Jamaicans. The Jamaicans were facing same conditions as poverty, deprivation, a dilapidation in the infrastructure, etc. But they were making it look cool. Buju or Shaba is in the ghetto, but there's this vibe in the ghetto. They are refusing to pity themselves because of their circumstances. That gave us energy. We started celebrating the ghetto. That's why we started feeling, even proudly referring to ourselves as Bayai. We proudly refer to the ghetto as our home. That's how people...
Because there was a picture of another ghetto elsewhere in the world that looked cool.
So it was cool to belong to the ghetto. And we gave it a new face to the extent that even those guys that came from what one would call well-to-do families started wishing
they were part of the
ghetto.
They were
part of the ghetto. And some of us that, had some lugezigezi would go to school to elevate and dare to step beyond our confines, got taken so serious to the extent that they started calling me the ghetto president, because I was in the ghetto. President.
Wasn't that though something that your fellow people would take negatively? Because why were you accepted? Why was do you get what I'm trying to say?
I completely get
you looked at in your community as Goracho was a guasing.
That's very true. In most cases, in deprived communities, especially ghetto communities, when you show signs of wanting to elevate yourself beyond the surroundings, they tend to detest you. And it's true that in the ghetto, even when you wear specs, they define you as Rugezigezi. When you speak English, they define you as Rugezigezi. But I also had understood the code that you just have to win and win and win. In the ghetto, especially in the boys' world, it's defined so much by violence. The more you can fight, is the more respect that you can get. So I was a boxer, and after speaking this English of Rugezigezi, I would prove to whoever challenged me that I could beat the hell out of them. So that alone gave me acceptance. We had to be accepted by force.
By force.
Yeah.
It's taking the power, not waiting for it.
It's taking it. Yeah.
Even the times when your mom was alive, I'm sure you had inklings of this life. Wasn't she worried?
Interestingly, when my mother was alive, I was a little bit much more grounded. I'd never tasted alcohol when my mother was alive. I never tasted a cigarette or a joint of weed. Besides escaping from home and going to watch films in these ghetto video halls, I'd never spent a night out in a disco. But when my mom passed away, it affected me a great deal. It almost made me lose my way because I lived my life so much for my mother. Even going to school, I struggled so much to perform better because that's the only thing that made my mother happy. And after bringing a good report card to my mother, it didn't matter what they talked about me.
She was happy.
Yeah. So when my mother passed away, in many ways I lost my moral compass. That's when I started drinking. That's when I started smoking. Anything that passed me, I got so violent and all that. I only, thank God, regained my moral compass if I did. Much later on,
That's honest. What about the big brothers? Because normally the reins almost fall to the next adult.
Yes.
And in this case, you had Nyanzi.
Yeah.
And actually, with your number 6, technically, you had
we had all these others, but those that took charge most were Nyanzi and Yahweh. And after the passing of our mother, we, in many ways, got scattered. Each one of us started looking for a way out.
Right.
Yahweh succeeded in leaving the country and he went to America. Now we only had Nyanzi, but he was also growing that later he even got a family. And we were growing because I was 15 going to 16 when my mother passed away, and those are very, very important years for a young man. So for the next 4 or 5 years, I was lost until I met Bobi.
When you say lost, Bobi, I want you to actually give us the real picture. Because are you then living with Nyanzi? Are you then in the streets figuring out A, B, C, D?
I started living by myself.
Wow.
Yeah. The only thing that I didn't lose, that was the interest in education.
Okay.
My mother had made me promise, just a short period before she passed away, that regardless of the interest in music, which was largely regarded as a spoiler, once you go into music, especially raga, you are wasted. So my mother had made me promise her that I'll never abandon education. So whatever came my way,
you had to go to school.
I continued going to school. Thanks to my elder brother Nyanzi, he was paying my school fees. So yeah, I continued. I completed my senior 6. You know, of course I didn't perform as well as I would have loved to perform, but it was a question of, you know, making sure that I graduate and my mother will not haunt me.
We take it for granted when you hear ghetto president, money guy or ghetto, you know, and it looks nice. But you were a 15, 16-year-old who had to figure life out for himself after the death of his mother. Even if the ghetto became home, what changes in your life? When you look back and you can see a 15-year-old now in the ghetto, what can you tell us about their life that we will take for granted, thinking they're okay, judging them, and not knowing?
I'll tell you that all those children, boys and girls, shouldn't be judged. They're not where they are, or they don't end up where they are because they want. For example, Flavia, looking at you now and remembering the young girl that was coming from down in the swamp there, going to school, I wonder how you did not end up as a karaoke dancer.
True.
I wonder.
Because it's around you.
Exactly. That is the norm. You know, just like I also make people wonder how I did not end up in prison or die so early or something.
Even the fights that used to happen, how people don't die and, you know, you end up on the wrong end.
Me, it's the power of God that I did not die in my 20s because I was fairly violent. And even when I succeeded musically, it was like I was trying to revenge on my old life. And that happens to so many ghetto youth when they
It's like you're looking in a mirror and you're fighting the other person.
Exactly. You don't want to be identified with what you wear. That's why you have to buy very many gold chains to prove a point to your own self. That's why you need a huge car or many cars, more than you can even drive. So that was with me. I credit education a great deal because it opened my mind. I loved to read. And there's this one autobiography that I read, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I saw myself. I saw this guy that had never even gone to school like I had. But he's going to prison, transformed him. He was in prison for 10 years, and that made him discover that he had many, many more
gifts in him.
He only needed to pick one and magnify it. Now, I had not gone to prison yet. So for me, it was an opportunity to learn from the lives of other people. And even the guys that we were growing up with. For example, there's this one guy called Biekwaso. I even sang about him.
Yes.
This guy was in Gomba. He was a friend to Fide Rutaya. And he would speak to kids, you know, that would gather around to see Fide whenever he came to our village. And this guy spoke so much sense to us, and I picked so much from him. Of course, there are also great guys that come from the ghetto. Godfrey Nyakana. He used to live there in Chebando. He became an international boxer, and he would come because we respected him so much. He would come. He would personally sit me down as one of the boys around, and he would speak sense to me. So the sense that I would pick from various people, unexpected people, shaped me
built you
a great deal to make me realize that, wait, this life is still long and I can, you know, change it into anything that I want.
What's your second song choice?
Believe by Dax Vibes.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is not just you supporting your brother. It's a good song that you like.
It's Believe. I wasn't that Vibes fan because up to now I can't believe it's that boy singing that amazing
right.
stuff. But just the song itself and the word Believe.
It is good.
Yeah.